It's midday on February 9th, 1944. The sun blazes over the French Riviera, where the harbor of Nice gleams beneath a clear sky. 4 Supermarine Spitfires of the U.S. Army Air Force's 52nd Fighter Group prowl overhead, hawks circling their prey. On board one of them sits a young pilot, Robert Anderson Hoover, calm but alert, scanning the blue expanse for enemy shapes. Below, a German ship maneuvers along the coastline. Hoover dives, his Merlin engine screaming, and releases his bombs. They whistle through the air, then explode short of their mark. The sea erupts in a white plume. The attack misses, but there's no time to dwell on it. Hoover senses something's wrong. The throttle feels sluggish. His Spitfire is losing power. Before he can diagnose the fault, a shadow passes above. 4 Focke-Wulf FW-190s are diving straight for him. He pulls the stick, twisting through the sky, his voice crackling over the radio. "Bandits! 4 FW-190Es above. Need help now." The enemy swoops in with deadly precision. Hoover turns head-on, firing bursts of .303 rounds. The German fighters scatter briefly, but they're faster, sleeker, deadlier. Dogfight chaos unfolds over the Mediterranean. Tracers arc through the sunlight. Hoover dives and climbs, desperate to keep them off his tail. His fellow Spitfires rush to help, but their older model aircraft can't match the German speed. Then, impact. A single 20mm shell slams into the Spitfire's wing root. The aircraft spins violently. Hoover fights for control, but the wing shears away. He ejects. The cold wind tears at his face, and then silence. The white canopy blossoms above him. Below, the sea waits. He hits the water hard, gasping for air, his parachute drifting away. Above, the battle still rages. His squadron disappears into the clouds. Robert Anderson Hoover, 22 years old, has just become a prisoner of war. German sailors haul him aboard a freighter, wet, shivering, exhausted. The moment his boots hit the deck, rifles level at his chest. The war has turned from combat to captivity. Days become weeks. Weeks turn into months. Hoover is shuffled from one detention camp to another, interrogated by German officers who demand information. He gives only his name, rank, and serial number. Nothing more. Torture, threats, he endures them all. Eventually, he's sent north to Stalag Luft I, a sprawling prison camp near the German town of Barth. Barbed wire fences surround rows of barracks filled with Allied airmen. Every night, searchlights sweep across the yard like watchful eyes. The days blur together. Roll calls, rations, boredom. Yet even in that monotony, there's hope. Rumors spread. The Allies are advancing. Germany is weakening. Hoover listens to distant artillery thunder, faint but growing louder with each passing day. Then comes April 20th, 1945, Hitler's birthday. Hoover wakes to the rumble of explosions far away. Soviet artillery. The front line is closing in. Many guards have already fled the camp to reinforce collapsing defenses. Those who remain seem nervous, distracted. Hoover sees opportunity. Together with 2 fellow prisoners, pilot Jerome Ennis and a Canadian flyer simply known as George, they begin to plan. The goal: escape before the Soviets arrive. They don't want to be liberated by another enemy. They want to go home. They find an old wooden plank beneath a barracks floor. Hoover hatches a simple, daring idea. Use it to cross the barbed wire fence. All they need is a distraction. That evening, as the sun dips low, a fight erupts among the prisoners, a staged argument escalating into shouts and punches. The guards turn their attention to the chaos. In the shadows, Hoover and his friends sprint for the fence, plank in hand. They throw it across, crushing the barbs, and crawl over one by one. In seconds, they're free. The forest swallows them. The war for them has changed again, from imprisonment to flight. Night cloaks the German countryside. The escapees move fast, their boots crunching softly through leaves. Every noise could mean discovery. They travel by stars, resting only when exhaustion forces them down. By dawn, they're miles from the camp. George, the Canadian, decides to separate, heading east, hoping to find another route home. Hoover and Ennis press westward. Their clothes are torn, stomachs empty, but the taste of freedom drives them onward. As night falls again, they stumble upon a farmhouse. The door creaks open under their hands. Inside, it's warm, silent, safe. They collapse into sleep, their first real rest in months. But in the morning, footsteps echo outside. The door bursts open. They freeze, caught. A woman stands there, pale but calm. She asks in French, "Who are you?" Hoover answers in halting French, "American pilot, escaped prisoner." She hesitates, then nods slowly. She's a French laborer, displaced to Germany during the war. Understanding their plight, she disappears briefly and returns with a small handgun and 2 magazines. "Take it," she whispers. "You'll need it." Hoover is moved. Before leaving, he scribbles a note for any Allied soldiers who might find her later, asking that she not be harmed for helping them. The woman folds it carefully into her apron. Armed and resolute, Hoover and Ennis set off once more. The next day, they steal 2 bicycles from a nearby shed and pedal westward through winding roads, their hearts pounding with fear and adrenaline. They ride for hours until they reach the outskirts of a strange, quiet airfield. Aircraft silhouettes gleam in the morning mist. It looks abandoned, eerily so. Rows of Messerschmitt Bf-109s stand in silence, some damaged, some stripped for parts. Hoover's eyes narrow. "Let's take a look," he says. Ennis frowns. "You're crazy." "Maybe," Hoover replies, "but that's our ticket home." They jump the fence, unaware that fate is about to hand them one of the most unbelievable moments of the war. The airfield is still. No guards, no engines, just wind whispering through hangars. Hoover inspects the first Bf-109, holes in the fuselage, no fuel. The next, same. A graveyard of crippled aircraft. But then, at the far end, he spots something else. A sleek Focke-Wulf 190, the Luftwaffe's pride. Its wings are intact, the paint barely scratched. Hoover climbs up to peek inside the cockpit. Suddenly a shout. "Halt!" A German mechanic appears, pistol drawn. Instinct takes over. Ennis raises his borrowed handgun, aiming squarely at the man's chest. "Freeze!" he orders. The mechanic, unarmed, obeys. Hoover wastes no time. With the mechanic's nervous help, they check the plane. The weapons are disabled, but the fuel tank, full. He turns to Ennis. "We can fly this." Ennis shakes his head. "Not me. I've had enough flying for one lifetime." Hoover looks at him, realizing what must be done. They clasp hands, brothers bound by war, and salute one last time. Then, Hoover lowers himself into the cockpit. Switches in German. He can barely read them. He breathes deeply, recalling every system he knows from test flights and training manuals. Throttle forward. Engine start. The BMW radial coughs, then growls to life. Dust swirls around him. Hoover pushes the throttle fully open. The FW-190 surges forward across the grass. No taxiing, just raw power. Within seconds, the machine lifts into the air. Below, Ennis watches his friend rise into the sky in a German fighter, escaping Germany itself. The FW-190 climbs smoothly, its controls heavy but responsive. Hoover's hands tremble as he steadies the wings. He's flying an enemy aircraft marked with black crosses over a war zone teeming with Allied guns and patrols. One wrong move, and he'll be shot down by his own side. He gains altitude, breaks through scattered clouds, and spots the northern coastline below. Using the sun's position, he determines west from east, his only compass. Instinct. The hours stretch endlessly. Below him, Europe burns. Columns of smoke, wrecked towns, retreating German convoys. He keeps low, skimming clouds to avoid radar. Every second feels stolen. As he crosses into the Netherlands, he looks for landmarks, windmills, rivers, canals. Then, in the distance, the shape of a windmill catches his eye. A wave of relief crashes over him. He's made it, crossed the front undetected. Now comes the final risk, landing. He sees airfields but dares not approach. Allied troops would open fire at first sight of German markings. Instead, he spots an open green field and aims for it. The landing gear won't deploy. No time. He throttles back, holds the stick steady. The plane stalls, belly flops hard onto the ground. The jolt nearly knocks him unconscious, but he's alive. Farmers rush toward him, shouting in Dutch. They believe he's a German pilot and surround the aircraft, pitchforks raised. Hoover climbs out slowly, hands up, shouting in broken English, "American! I'm American." Confusion reigns. Moments later, a British supply truck rolls by. Soldiers jump out, weapons drawn. Hoover explains quickly, breathlessly. Recognition dawns. They lower their rifles, laughing in disbelief. After 14 months of imprisonment, Robert Anderson Hoover is free. Back among his own, Hoover's tale spreads like wildfire. A pilot who escaped captivity, stole an enemy fighter, and flew it home. It sounds too outrageous to be true, but every word is. He's debriefed, fed, and clothed. Allied officers question him for hours, unable to believe how he managed to start and fly the FW-190 without training. Hoover just shrugs. "I didn't have a choice." Days later, he learns his friend Jerome Ennis also made it out safely. They reunite years after the war, laughing over the memory. Ennis never flew again, keeping his promise. Hoover continues his aviation career, first as a test pilot, then as a stunt flyer. His graceful aerobatic shows, often performed in his signature yellow P-51 Mustang Old Yeller, inspired generations of pilots. When asked about his daring escape, he always downplays it. It was the dumbest thing I ever did. But behind the humility lies something deeper, a testament to survival, courage, and ingenuity born from desperation. In May 1945, only a week after Hoover's escape, the Soviets liberated Stalag Luft I. Had he stayed, he would have survived anyway, but that's not the point. Hoover didn't wait for freedom, he took it. Robert A. Hoover lived a long life, passing away in 2016 at the age of 94. His legend endures, not as a reckless stunt, but as a symbol of human will under impossible odds, because sometimes the only way out is to fly.